Okay. Thank you all for coming back, those of you that came back. I know what happened. Actually, as soon as it started, the first slide, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe I just misplaced that slide. Anyways, when I do a presentation, I always do two. One that's sort of a working file and then the final file. So what I had installed was the working file. So my lesson is to make sure I delete the working files. Anyways, let's begin again, and my apologies. So as I said, the 4 yeses to an offer are, as we said, these are the only 4 yeses that we need to get our client to agree to. And one of the reasons why I always used to like to start with that when I was hiring new agents and agents who were trying to improve their negotiating skills, I say, what you do in presenting an offer is you always start at the bottom. And in most cases, the possession date in the offer is at the bottom. And again, depends on where these, what province we're in and whether or not their offers are lined up the same. But I certainly know here where we are, the possession date is at the bottom. So you start at the bottom of the offer and then you work your way up. Because we know that the main stumbling block in every situation and every offer is always going to be the price. So what you're really trying to do is you're trying to show the client that there's more to an offer than just the price. And that's why we start at the bottom. And hopefully if the closing date is agreeable, we've got 1 yes. And if the all the extras in the offer, like the appliances, everything, 2 yeses. And then the terms of the offer, of course, are there any conditions in there? Is it a clean offer that has maybe only a condition on financing, which is very normal? So that could be a yes as well, because it's a normal offer. Every offer is going to have a condition on financing. And so now you got the price kind of thing. So here we are, the 4 yeses, 3 of them are already taken care of. And now we got 1 issue, which is the price. If we have 2 issues, or maybe even 3 issues, okay, like they don't like something in the extras, that you've included something that they didn't want included. And now the terms, maybe there's a condition, a clause in there that they're not happy with. So now maybe you have 3 or 4 potential problems that you have to overcome, no's, if you will, that you have to overcome. So now the next thing I always did was ask them to prioritize. Okay, let's put these, I made a list, the 4 things or the 3 things, and we put them in order of priority. And the reason I want to do that is because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give them as few changes as possible, because that's where a lot of times the negotiating breaks down, is because they want to change all 4 or all 3. And now the real estate agent has to spend his time trying to get 3 areas agreed to or all 4 areas agreed to. It would be much easier if we could, make some concessions here, if we can find some way of getting the seller to make a concession. And that's basically what why I'm trying to do the prioritizing. And I'll demonstrate that. So as I say, I also give them 3 options when it comes to the offer. They can certainly accept the offer, they can sign the offer back, and they can decline the offer. Oftentimes, to be honest with you, I only give them 2 options, accept it or sign it back. I don't like declining an offer. And if you include the 3rd option, then you need to make sure you really stress this, because you cannot make a decision on what a client will do based on their first initial offer. In other words, I've been in the business a very long time. I know many of you have been in the business a long time as well. I've seen people come up nothing, and I've seen people come up $100,000 and even more, depending on the price range. So I've seen people come up a lot. So we can't decide what someone is going to do, and just because the offer is low, think, they'll never come up. I'm going to offer, I always signed it back, always, because you don't know. None of us know, and you know that to be very, very true. So there is a difference, and I love that little chart on the side between selling and negotiating. Take a look at that little chart on the side. I found that, and I thought, oh, this is great. Selling is the art of persuasion, and making people want to act, and negotiating is the art of bargaining. I thought that was such an easy and simple, but it's so, so, so true. So selling is a process of identifying the fit, if you will, between the buyer and seller. In other words, what the seller wants and what the buyer wants, and looking at the things that they're agreeing to. Negotiating, of course, is agreeing to the terms of the deal and is part of the selling process. But that little chart really says it. And I thought it was quite profound when I saw it. So selling, negotiating, and closing. Now you see there's three things we're talking about here. Negotiating, it's coming to an agreement, okay, getting them to sign. And selling, of course, is showing the product and the services and why it's valuable. In other words, what you're doing is you're pointing out the benefits. The benefits are not always visual benefits. Sometimes, the buyer of the first time buyer, all of a sudden buying their first home, and the value of home ownership and the benefit of home ownership. So there's other benefits other than the kitchen, the living room, and all those kinds of things. You want to make sure you talk about that, the benefits of ownership. And of course, closing is making a decision to take action, and it's finalizing the deal. This is where you actually get the signature. And remember, it's the emotional things that you're looking for with the people. It's dealing with all of that, because remember, getting a signature, for some people, signing anything is a really scary thing, and they can be defensive, they can be angry, they can be, anxious, they can be all kinds of things. So what you're trying to do during that time where you're getting signature is to try and keep everything as calm and as quiet and as possible. And I always used to use my hand to turn the pages for them and point to where they need to sign and initial where they do. I think most of you do that, but there's a process here, of making sure you keep things under control. So we were talking about turning no's to a yes. We talked about the fact that it was building a relationship, and don't treat negativity with body language or tonality. Don't let the no make you change your body language and all of a sudden you're upset and it's about patience here, and it's about finding new information to share with them. It's giving them more reasons why they should do this. Because remember one thing, please remember this. They want to buy a house. They want this house. They're nervous. They're scared. But they want to do this. And that's what you need to keep in the back of your mind. You're not pushing anyone to do anything. What you're doing is helping them make the decision of what they already want, okay? And their fear and their uncertainty or their anxiousness is going to make them resist and do all kinds of things to try to resist. And that's where the good salesperson comes in. It's like I heard, I mentioned this before. The very, very, very first thing I ever heard when I got into the real estate business from my manager, and I've never forgotten it. And to be honest with you, it's probably one of the best things I ever heard. He said, remember, in the case of a buyer is going to keep looking at houses until they find an agent who is skilled enough to close them. A buyer is going to keep looking at houses until they find an agent that's skilled enough to close them. And the reason I think this is so important to know is because if you just think they're looky-loos, and if you just think they're tire kickers kind of thing, then you're not going to try hard enough. You have to understand they really want to do this, and you need to help them make that decision. That's what you're doing. You're helping them make a decision that's good for them, because in 10 years, they're going to thank you for what you helped them do. So we know it's about relationships. So moving a client from a no to a yes, how often do we hear that no? Does a no really mean no? And I said to you earlier that what a no really means is, I'm not convinced yet. Tell me more. So that's what you're doing when you hear a no. You know they're lacking. There's something is still unanswered inside of them, and your job is to get it out so you can solve it. We talked about showing empathy, and I know how you feel. I understand, Mr. Seller, your point of view. Suppose that. What if? Would you consider? Is there any way? Okay. So again, what you're doing is you're never, ever, ever disagreeing with a client. You're always agreeing with them, but giving them an alternative by suppose that, what if? Remember, it's the way you present information and the words that you choose to present that information that's going to help people make a decision. And that's where the skill in selling comes, is knowing how to be able to closing is asking questions. Always. We talked about patience and silence. Silence shows a lot of respect. I was at an event over the weekend, and I can tell you that there was this one lady, we were chatting, and she was probably one of the best listeners I have ever met in my life. And let me tell you, I felt like $1 million. This lady really, just because of the way she demonstrated her silence, she never interrupted me. She was focused on what I was saying. She was looking at me while I was talking to her. She allowed me to completely finish everything I had to say. And then she responded. That is what I mean about silence and patience. So we need to do the same thing. We need to let them speak. We should never interrupt them when they're saying whatever it is that they're saying. And then we get our chance once we know they have completely completed what they wanted to say. Silence is often underestimated. It's a powerful, powerful thing in negotiating. And when someone tells you, a price, for example, and you're not, that price would be a problem kind of thing, rather than react right away. I used to just sit there and look at them and allow some silence to happen once they've given me that price. And don't be quick to respond, ever. Always give it some time. Because I'm sure you've heard the saying, whoever speaks first loses, kind of thing. When you hear that no, and you give someone information or you ask them a question, whoever speaks first is the loser. So you never want to be the one to speak first. So if you ask them a question, it's their turn and they don't respond right away. You do not respond until they respond. So that will make such a difference. So remember, as I said, we're looking for alternatives, based on whatever problem that they have. We're looking for their reasons, their objection. We're hearing their objection. We're offering them solutions. If they don't like the solution, they'll come back with the objection again. And we keep trying, and we keep looking for different things that we can present to them rather than give it to them all at one time. So what you don't want to do is answer their objection by giving them a plethora of information all at one time. What you want to do is spoon feed it to them. You want to give it to them one point and then ask them the question, suppose that, would you consider this? And then you give them another situation. You've asked them the question and you wait. And now they come back again. And then you give them another point on why they should do this. So rather than a lot of people say, well, feed it to them one at a time. It gives you more opportunity of breaking the gap, of narrowing the gap between what they want and what will sell this property. So we talked about the importance of patience, and I hope I presented that well with that lady today that over the weekend that I told you I met, which was really incredible. Honestly, she really, it's the highest compliment you can pay someone is when you're patient and you listen to their information with empathy and with compassion, that that you're not this high, pushy salesperson kind of thing. We talked about the importance of offering new information and spoon feeding it to them. And of course, we don't want to give up. That's why we're spoon feeding one objection, response, objection, response kind of thing. We're doing it that way. Many listing agents want you to simply email the offer to them. I know all of you are experiencing this. In some areas, the selling agent can't even be on the offer presentation. But if you are a listing agent, unless this client is an airplane flight away from you, you got to be belly to belly to present this. I hear so many, we can simply, DocuSign it over to them kind of thing, or so that they can read it that way by themselves. And then on a phone call, we can negotiate that way. And I hear that a lot from real estate agents. There is something about sitting across the table from someone, having a conversation, looking them in the eye, explaining situations and ideas and reasoning and logic and so on, to overcome their concerns and their doubts and their worries and all of that. You can't do that on DocuSign. You can't do that as easily on a phone call. Yes, you can do some emotion, you can demonstrate emotions, but the power of the human presence, makes such a difference. So I always say to real estate agents, belly to belly. It's an old saying, and you all know that I've been in the business for too many years, but, eyeball to eyeball, it is by far the best way that you're going to be able to make a deal. If you're the buyer's agent, here in the GTA area, the Toronto Real Estate Board rules allows you to be present on the offer presentation unless the seller has given the listing agent a note, signed a document. He doesn't want anybody else there, just his agent. And it has to be noted that way on the listing unless they've changed the rules. And, by all means, if I stand to be corrected, but to the best of my knowledge, it hasn't been changed. So try to be there, ask the listing agent why he would not allow you to be present. It's not on the listing. You want to be sure you tell them that you're going to be respectful to their client and you're not going to give them a hard time. So any questions? Hopefully we got more information out today than what we wanted. Any questions at all? I'm so sorry about the mix-up. All right. Thank you all very, very much. And we'll see you again next week. I can't let me tell you what the subject is next week. Yep. Standing apart from the competition. Standing apart from the competition is next week's schedule. Anyways, take care. Have a great week. Bye-bye.